Obviously, Chuck Norris is the best. Be like Chuck.
Thumbs up!
Hi everyone, welcome back to another Scotty Karate video. Today we're going to be going over a common thing that most martial artists do, especially when they start out: emulation. Is it good? Is it bad? Who should you emulate if it is good? That on today's episode of Imitation and Emulation. One of the many things people say is a sign of respect is when you try and mimic someone else. You see someone that you respect doing something and you want to be like them, so you imitate them. You try and recreate it. You try and be like them. But is that a good thing? Well, obviously it depends on who you are emulating. You're emulating someone who kills people, maybe not. But reality is in the martial art world, we usually get caught up trying to emulate other martial artists and kind of glorifying them. Now, this is a unpopular opinion, but I'm going to use the most famous example, Bruce Lee. I cannot tell you how many people I've met or talked to in and out of martial arts that idolize Bruce Lee. To the point where, honestly, it's kind of weird. But I digress. But you'll meet these martial artists and they'll say things like, oh, because Bruce Lee, his movies, his inspiration, that's why I got into the martial arts. Which, in my opinion, is perfectly fine. I mean, absolutely. You know, he did a lot to bring martial arts to the West. But at what point does that stop? And that's the difference. So if you're just inspired by, like I've talked in other videos, I was inspired by the movie Karate Kid. That's what made me want to join a dojo and be, a martial artist. But I didn't spend my entire life trying to mimic and be just like Daniel LaRusso. You know what I mean? Like, I understood what it was, even as a kid. I was like, this is inspiration. I thought it was cool, it was good looking, and made me want to be like that. But it didn't make me want to be him. So, by example, Bruce Lee, it's so common for me to meet people and they'll be like, oh, Bruce Lee, he's the greatest, he's the best, He was good at a lot of things, don't get me wrong, but he isn't you. I mean, that's just so given. I mean, even his students that trained directly with him, that carried on his legacy and style, aren't even close to Bruce Lee's ability as he was at Bruce Lee. I mean, it was him. So, with that being said, inspiration to do something because of someone like Bruce Lee, great. I mean, that happens to everybody. Everybody does that with everything. But wanting to change who you are to be them, that's unhealthy. So you'll see martial artists and they'll talk about, we'll talk about Bruce Lee's speed and how amazingly fast he was.
To the eyes, you would use fingers. Don't worry. To the eyes?
And he was. You can find videos of it where he'll be in interviews and he'll just be like, whoop-ah! And he'll be so fast that the camera can barely pick it up. Well, that's fast. That's great. But let's pretend you are a 200-pound man who doesn't have an abundance of fast-twitch muscle fibers. Maybe you're just average. You have around 50-50. Or more to the point, I think the more common ratio is 40% fast, 60% slow. But I digress. Odds of you ever touching that speed is almost zero. You can train, you can improve it, you can get faster, but Bruce Lee fast? Probably not. So at what point is it unhealthy to continue to idolize someone? And this is where I like to draw the line. When it starts interfering with you. So I'll use me as the example on today's video. I'm 6'2". I'm heavy. I was heavy when I was thin. I mean, it just is what it is. I will never be 120 pounds. I will never be 5'4", or whatever Bruce Lee was. The odds of that are zero. I'm never going to have his body frame, his structure, his fast twitch muscle fibers. I'm never going to be as fast as Bruce Lee. But on that same note, I'm also a lot bigger, a lot beefier, we'll say, than he ever was, which means I have a different set of skill sets that he doesn't, or didn't, as it were. That doesn't degrade him, and it shouldn't degrade me that I'm never going to be as fast as him. Everyone's different, and the reality is we need to know that. That's a problem with a lot of martial artists, is knowing your strengths. If, for example, you're a big guy and you're not as fast as the average martial artist, you know, you punch a little slower, you kick a little slower, that's okay. You have to find other aspects. I personally go for blunt force trauma. I hit as hard and as fast as I can. It's probably not as fast as someone else, obviously, but I can sure out muscle and weight them in most cases. So that's my benefit. I have to look and build towards that. When I train a 110-pound girl, I don't train them to use their entire body weight. I do. Let me phrase that. That's an incorrect statement. But I don't expect them to have the same kind of ability as a 250-pound man when they're only a 110-pound female. You know what I mean? So I have to tailor what I'm teaching, how I'm teaching to them, because teaching them how I train myself is probably going to do a bigger disservice to them. But they might be able to better represent, say, Bruce Lee's training, because they are in a similar category. Similar weight, similar, height. Everybody's different. Emulation is great. Imitation, to a degree, but only in a healthy way. Understand who you are and your boundaries. It is so common for people to get hung up and like, oh, but Bruce Lee did X. Yeah, that's Bruce Lee. He is the anomaly of the anomalies. He isn't the standard. You're not going to look at him and go, oh, I can do that. I mean, you might, but he trained his entire life, all day, every day. And he was the anomaly. What I like to do is give an example as, like, the Joe Bro that's sitting on the couch saying, oh yeah, that UFC fighter, he ain't nothing. I could have beat him. He should have done X, Y, Z. Sure he should have. And anyone who gets out and trains is still miles ahead of someone who sits on the couch and doesn't. It just is what it is. And then to be an elite fighter that's in the UFC, you're already the elite. Then you go to the next level and you go to the elite of them, who's the champion. I mean, there's so many levels here. Not just to get into the UFC. There's lots of UFC fighters that are amazing in comparison to the average martial artist that are at the bottom of the UFC that probably hasn't won a fight. But the reality is they're still the elite of the group that's in the elite group. You know what I'm saying? So when you have these champions that are just so much better, a common example, I mean, not anymore, obviously, but in her prime, Ronda Rousey was armbarring the crap out of every girl she met. Within 30 seconds, like, it was just crazy how fast she was dominating them. Because she was the elite of the elite. If you want to emulate Scott Adkins, I mean, he's a great martial artist. But if you're 5'4" and very thin, you're not going to keep up with his 6'2" or whatever he is and muscular frame. Completely different animals, you know what I mean? So you just have to understand, you can get inspiration from these people, you can look to these people for guidance, advice, how they do things. Case in point, I can show you a move, I can show you how to do X kick, but at the end of the day, if your body isn't able to do that in the same way that I do it, I still give you the knowledge of it, I can still inspire you, I can still show you how I do it so you know it's possible, period. But then you need to know how you do it. You have to figure out you. This is why a lot of martial arts, in my opinion, fail, is they're a one-size-fits-all place. You go in there and are like, this is how you do the karate chop. It's just like this. And then someone else goes in there and goes, yeah, but my shoulder's bad, so I have to do it kind of at an angle. It feels better. No, this is the way you do karate. No, it's not. It's not at all. And anyone who teaches like that, please stop. Everyone's different. Everybody's different. Something that works for me, I might be able to do a throw because of my size and stature 100 times easier than a 110-pound female. It just is what it is. I can't teach her the same way I would teach someone my size. You have to tailor. So this one-size-fits-all needs to go. Well, that's the end of my rant. If you liked the video, please like, comment, and subscribe. And don't forget to hit the notification bell when you leave so you know when my videos are posted each week. And as always, the more you train, easier to fight.